Hi, Advocate Kushal.
Hello.
Hi, sir. Sir, we learned that very recently, Honorable Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, in one of the matters before the Honorable Supreme Court of India, has held and stated that the High Courts of India also have the power to strike down central acts. Could you please help us understand exactly what this statement entails and the reason why this had to be stated by the Supreme Court?
Yes, this is a very big observation that Justice Chandrachud has made. So basically, you had a case regarding the Epidemic Act in the Supreme Court, and it was in front of a three judges bench, three excellent judges. You had Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, Justice Indu Malhotra, and Justice Indira Banerjee. And Justice D.Y. Chandrachud made a very strong observation to the petitioner, saying that every high court, every high courts have the ju- every high court has the jurisdiction to every high courts have the power to strike down central act, and further told him you don't have to come to the Supreme Court. You are anyways on the issue of quarantine in Maharashtra. So this was a very important issue because uh, it showed you that the Supreme Court is adhering again to two main issues, and they've brought it up. Number one, exhaustion of local remedies. In the court's opinion, the petitioner had not exhausted his local remedy. He had a local remedy before the Bombay High Court, and therefore, in the court's opinion, he should have gone back to the Bombay High Court. He should have filed his petition there, and he should have got it decided on there and there. This is a very big issue because this shows that now the Supreme Court is really uh, firm on the principle that you cannot use the Supreme Court as a flyover. You have to exhaust your local remedies before you approach them. This is what we saw when CJI Bobde, in one of his recent cases, he told Senior Advocate Sibal that you cannot. I can issue notice, but you might have to go back to the High Court. And it was one of the sentiments behind his overall statement that they're trying to discourage as much Article 32 writ petitions as they can. So
Correct.
now coming back to the issue, there is actually a very famous case here of Kusum ingots. Now, what is this case of Kusum? Uh, what is the case of Kusum ingots? It was a Supreme Court case, and the uh, Supreme Court had some very interesting observations. Now, do bear in mind these are obiter. So, obiter means these are not observations that were made to reach the final verdict, which is called a ratio. But bear in mind that these are very persuasive. So, in the case of Kusum ingots, where the constitutionality of the Sarfasi Act was challenged, the Supreme Court in para 22 made some observations. Number one, the court must have the requisite territorial jurisdiction. An order passed by writ petition questioning the constitutionality of a parliamentary act, whether it's interim or final, keeping in view the provisions contained in Article 226, Clause 2. Now, Article 226 is the article that if you wanted to file a writ petition before any high court, that is the article you'll want to use of the Constitution of India,
Right.
will have effect throughout the territory of India, subject to the course of the applicability of the Act. So, as the ratio decidendi of Kusum ingots indicated, that this thing, as I said earlier, was obiter, but this obiter has been used by various high courts. Let's go on a couple of cases. So, the first case we were dealing with was Soumya and Thomas versus the Union of India. Now, that was a case in the Kerala High Court where the Kerala High Court read the Indian Divorce Act 1869, where they said a minimum of 2 years of separate residence is needed between the partners before granting divorce by mutual consent. The Kerala High Court read it down to mean 1 year so that it did not violate Article 14 and Article 21. And this shows, and this thing has had a binding effect throughout the state of Kerala. Another case which I think was very important was the Telugu Employee State Federation versus the Government of India. And in this case, also Section 7, the Andhra Pradesh High Court, and this is very interesting, Andhra Pradesh High Court struck down 17A of the Industrial Disputes Act 1947, and it was held that it was not a legitimate thing. So it shows you that the Kerala High Courts have been using, so the various High Courts did use that obiter principle in Kusum Ingots to strike down central legislation that they thought was not legitimate, it was not constitutional, or for some reason or the other was incompatible with the daily functionings of the state. But do remember, when a High Court strikes it down, it's just to do with the state jurisdiction. So I think Justice Chandrachud's verdict here is very legitimate. It is very, or rather I would say very powerful, in that it will now lend more weight to the debate. And let's say in the final, and let's say, should this be the ratio in his final judgment, then that will be a lot. This will give more High Courts courage to strike down or to edit, or as we say, read down central legislation and make it more suitable towards the functioning of the state while remaining in conformity with the Constitution of India. This is not a very easy issue. This is, I promise you, you've not heard the last of it. I promise you that going forward, there will be more petitions, more requests to transfer this to the ultimate 5 judges bench. Because as I told you, Kusum Ingots is there, but Kusum Ingots is obiter. So nobody is really bound. So those who want it will probably want a binding ratio, and those who don't want it, they'll be trying to strike it down. So it's a very interesting issue, but I promise you haven't heard the last of it. But in my opinion, it was a good thing. It gives the states more autonomy to take central legislation and make it more suitable to their liking. So that's that.
Right. Thank you so very much for these useful insights, sir.
Anytime.